Hey, Pappy, welcome to Ignite's Infra AI event.
Thank you for having me, Keith.
So you are with Outshift, part of Cisco, the incubator program within Cisco. Tell us a little bit more about what you do there.
That's correct, Keith. So I lead product management and product design, as well as business development for Outshift by Cisco, which is Cisco's internal incubator group. The charter for Outshift is to look at the landscape of emerging technologies and find the next meaningful business opportunity for Cisco. So as you can imagine, that's a pretty big charter.
Yes.
The landscape of emerging tech, as you can imagine, is a very big one. So we try to find things that are adjacent to the core Cisco business. In other words, Cisco has a right to play in that space. There is a strategic lever we bring to bear on that space. But it's far enough away from the traditional business units at Cisco that they aren't already pursuing it. So obviously, as an incubator group, we don't have a monopoly on innovation within Cisco. It's a very innovative company.
Yeah.
But we do have the charter to look at things that are outside the traditional tent of the business. And within that, for the foreseeable future, we are looking at two big things. One is agentic AI, of course, everything that we are talking about here at this conference, super exciting stuff. But then also we look at quantum, so quantum networking and cryptography.
Wow.
Very exciting stuff.
Yeah, and big industries, big markets.
Big markets indeed, big transformational markets.
So when you start to evaluate companies, is this from a technology adjacent standpoint or financial or both?
Both. So
Okay.
the idea here is we are very deliberate about the fact that we are not a technology incubator, we are a business incubator.
Okay.
What that means is we definitely have a very strong engineering team and we collaborate very closely with Cisco Research. So the goal definitely is to look at the technology aspect of it, but that's not the only part of it we look at. We look at the emerging market segments. We look at perhaps new personas that are emerging that we need to serve. So it's all about building that nascent business, showing that hockey stick inflection in that space, and then graduating it into the main Cisco business.
That's fantastic. So to the degree that you can share a little bit more, because I know this is such a competitive space too, what are you seeing at the infrastructure layer? What are you seeing at the agentic layer that has you excited, that has you really leaning in?
Yeah, as you know, this is really what I want to talk about. So what we are seeing here, we've been preaching the gospel of the Internet of Agents for a couple of years now. And the idea here is that AI is here, agents are here. We see autonomous agents leveraging AI to perform a variety of tasks. And from the get-go, we saw the natural evolution of this being in a direction where agents need to communicate and collaborate with each other in an open, interoperable way. And so we've always been working towards that goal. When we first started talking about it, people would look at us funny. What do you mean agents talking to each other like without human intervention, like as autonomous systems? That's kind of crazy.
Right.
And now what we are seeing is it is coming of age. We are starting to see more and more people deploying agents within their enterprises, starting to scale those systems up and starting to run into the very problems that we had described and for the architecture for which we had set some time back. So this is things like, discovering the right agents to do your jobs, connecting them securely, enabling them to talk to each other in an interoperable manner, observing what they do, all of that. So it's managing the entire life cycle of a complex multi-agentic system in an open, interoperable manner. And we are starting to see that come to fruition. So that vision is starting to become reality. More and more people are deploying these complex systems. And so it's very gratifying to see that, And so we have a collective that we've built out. All of this is happening as an open source effort. So we have an open source collective called Agency, where we have several big players. So we have Google and Dell and Red Hat and Oracle as our partners in that. But then we have 75 plus smaller startups, tech forward, innovative startups that are building these systems for multi-agentic collaboration. And they've joined us on this journey as well. So collectively, we are building the foundation of what we call the Internet of Agents. And we are starting to see that gain traction. People are starting to use it. We ourselves,
Cisco is synonymous with internet, right? You're
Exactly
synonymous
correct.
with networking. But now we're moving to that infrastructure layer and putting agents on top of that. What are the challenges in facilitating that and not allowing it to, slow down our whole user experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I get this a lot. Why do we need a new internet? Why do we need a new internet for agentic collaboration? What is so unique about the way agents talk to each other that necessitates this, right? And the reason is agents are fundamentally different in how they communicate. We know this, right? Until now, by and large, any kind of software system, whether you're talking about physical machines, virtual machines, microservices, containers, APIs, what have you, they're all largely deterministic in their behavior. They behave the same way every time you ask them a question. Agents, not so much, right? Like we all know this. You ask ChatGPT the same thing twice in a row, you get two slightly different, but materially different answers. And so they are non-deterministic and probabilistic in the way they behave. And that's just not good enough when it comes to enterprise deployments where you expect certain very deterministic outcomes. You don't want your infrastructure, you ask it a question one time and it gives you a different answer every time you ask. You want it to behave in a very robust, deterministic manner. So it's taking the power of these agents that behave in autonomous, non-deterministic ways, but then putting the right measures in place so that you can get the kinds of deterministic outcomes that you want in an enterprise. So that's where the need for an Internet of Agents comes to be.
So let me follow up on that then,
Yes, of
Papi,
course.
and ask you, we've been talking a lot about ecosystem players. Let's talk about end customer, that enterprise decision maker. I was just talking to a chief AI officer, right? What are they asking you for that you can help them deliver? What do they need that they're not getting from today's internet?
So most enterprises today are struggling with deploying agents and corralling that power of agentic. Everyone knows that there is something huge here, right? Like the potential is huge. But we've seen the studies, right? Like we've seen the, saying, 95% of deployments fail, et cetera. Like, why do they fail, right? Like, and are we measuring the right things? So as a CIO and as decision makers, they are struggling with how do I take this technology that has such obvious promise and potential and deploy it in a way that doesn't compromise my business, right? Like they also have to deal with customer data and governance and compliance regimes and security issues and all of that, right? So for us, the goal is to give them battle-tested technologies that they can use when they are starting to experiment and put together these multi-agentic systems, and do so in a way that gives them optionality. So you don't want to be locked into one way of doing things. You don't want to be locked into one model. You want it to be an open play, just like when we talked about the internet, right?
Yeah.
We want it to, because we truly, this is core to what Cisco is, right? As a company, it is deep in our DNA that we believe that systems for connecting things together, connecting machines, connecting people, connecting non-human entities like agents, are better when they're open and interoperable. This is core to who we are. That was core to what we built with the first internet. And now it's core to what we are building for agentic internet as well. So we want it to be an open, collaborative effort across the industry so decision makers and CIOs can be comfortable in the idea that I'm not going to paint myself into a corner. These are battle-tested, open, interoperable technologies that regardless of which model I use, or what kind of deployment mode I have, or what services I need, I can rely on these to build my multi-agentic systems.
Yeah. Papi, it's great to hear you mention Cisco, and good to hear you be maintaining your spot as a pillar in the tech ecosystem. I felt like Cisco was moving away a little bit in terms of the core players, but it sounds like you're very much bent on remaining inside the core. See yourself still as a very fundamental pillar in this AI economy.
Of course. Cisco has been at the forefront of connecting people, things, services together. This is who we are. This is what we do. We connect people together in a secure scale.
So you're saying I need to read more?
No, this is a company whose logo is a bridge.
Yeah.
Okay. It was built on the idea that you connect people together. We bridge gaps.
Okay, so let me ask you real quick. Outshift goal for 2026.
Outshift goal for 2026 is to enable real-world deployment of large, complex, multi-agentic systems. We are working with the community to do that. We have an open source effort that is geared towards that. We are starting to see early traction on that. We want you all, everybody who's listening, to go check out the agency, agntcy.org website and the GitHub repository. Help us build the future together. So that's what we want.
That's fantastic. What a great spot to end. Thank you so much, Papi, for sharing, and good to see you.
Good to see you too.